welcome to IGLI. Today we're talking about indoor plant lighting. Why do I need to give my plants artificial light? Well, the reason being is indoors the only source of light is the windows. When we're outdoors we have the sun, and the sun hits the plants and gives them all the light they need. Rather than indoors, we only have the windows coming in and giving us light, and then when we're in a north or a south facing area, or a north and east or a west-facing area, it doesn't give us what we need. Now, a south-facing area, that will give you what you need, because the sun's coming directly in. As we all know, even in the winter, the sun's on the south-facing side of our house, and that's always the warmest side, because the light's coming in. And so if you have a window that's facing south, and it's hitting the plant with direct light, then you'll be just fine. But if you're in a north-facing room, and you're trying to grow a banana, or an olive or a pomegranate or something, it's not going to work. But if you're in a north-facing room and you're trying to grow, say, ivy, some pothos, other things like that, then you'll be fine. But if you're trying to grow something that needs a lot of energy, it's trying to produce fruit, it's trying to produce something other than leaf growth, then you're going to want more light. And so if you have a north-facing room, but you still want to grow that plant there, then what you're going to need to do is supplement with light. Now, let's get into the different types of lights that you can use for this. Now, there are 4 different types of lights. You've got incandescent, fluorescence, LEDs, and LED grow lights. Now, both the last 2 are LED, but both do different things. LED grow lights act more like fluorescence, or LED lights act more like fluorescence, and LED grow lights are a complete thing under themselves. And at the end, I'll talk about those more specifically because they don't apply to some of the rules that I will talk about. They are kind of the wild one that doesn't hold to the rules. But we'll start with incandescents. Incandescents get very hot, use a lot of energy, are very cheap, but make very poor light, and can be broken easily because they're usually made out of glass. I would not recommend incandescents for indoor lighting or for plant lighting, just because the light quality is really poor. They might be super cheap, but they burn out quick, and they use a ton of energy, which really isn't helpful when you're, trying to save maybe a little bucks so you can buy another plant or do something else with that money. The next is fluorescence. Fluorescence don't use as much energy, not quite as hot, but they still get hot. They are easy to break, but they are still cheapish. They're not as cheap like pennies that you can get incandescents for, but they're still semi-affordable. You can get something like this, which you could probably stick up in your ceiling, and you could, in a dark room, and stick this up in the ceiling for about, I think, $8, and have light for these guys and this guy, and a few other of these different types of plants. But they're still cheaper. The next level is LEDs. LEDs are highly energy efficient. They don't get hot. You can have here's an example of one. You can have it touching right on the plant, and the plant will be perfectly fine. It won't get burned or anything. So very energy efficient. Doesn't produce a lot of heat. Not easily breakable. Fluorescents are easily breakable. And then you have the gases that come out of them because that's how they work. But LEDs are more expensive. An LED equivalent of this is probably going to be another $4, so maybe $12 for something like this, an LED farm. But they last super long, so you don't have to replace them. Rather than fluorescents, you probably want to replace them every 2 years. Then the last one is LED grow lights. LED grow lights make amazing lights. They're okay energy efficient, but usually, depending on if it's a panel, if it's a bulb, they work very efficiently. If it's a panel, maybe you're looking at 25 to 48 watts, which is still pretty good compared to a fluorescent, what it can do. But they are a bit expensive, and they are slightly fragile depending on the model. But they make amazing light. You just basically flip it, and the plant grows. But another drawback is the light that they produce. LED grow lights can't be around humans. It hurts our eyes, so you have to put glasses on or either shut them off and have a different set of lights to turn on that are good for your eyes. So they're more adapt for just plants. They do amazing for plants, but they're not so good for humans. But let's get on to the next section. Okay, now the forms of measurements of lights. We have 3 different measurements. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure. We've got our first one, which is lumens. Lumens is how bright. The higher the lumens, the brighter the light bulb. Granted, exception to the rule, LED grow lights do not apply to this. Just because they aren't super bright, but yet, to a plant, they're very bright. I'm still trying to figure them out a bit, but when you go to buy LED grow lights, it will not have a lumens. But for the rest of the bulbs, this does apply. The higher the lumens, the brighter the bulb, and we'll talk about how that benefits you later on. Then you have Kelvin. Kelvin is the wavelength. The lower the Kelvin, the more yellow the light, the more red the light is. The higher the Kelvin, the more blue, or shall we say white, it is. And then the next unit of measurement that we have in lights is wattage, which is basically power. How much power the light uses. That, determines how much, it's pulling out of your socket, how much your socket can handle. And that's also important when you're thinking about how much you're willing to pay in energy costs and how much your, light fixture can handle. But let's get on to the next thing where we use all the things we previously talked about and compile them to figure out how to choose the right light bulb. Let's talk about how to choose the right light bulb. First off, if you're getting a light other than LED grow lights, you're wanting to get a light that has 5,000 Kelvin. 5,000 or higher. That's where we're getting UV, and it's the closest to sunlight. The next factor you want to consider is how bright. If you have, say, for example, I have a plant here, and I want to be able to have the plant up here, and I've got a plant down here and plant here, and this plant, say, is a tropical plant, and I want it, it needs a lot of light, and it'll filter through, and the light will get to the shadier plants below it. You're probably going to want a brighter light, probably 1,000, possibly 2,000 lumens. But if it's going to be a little plant, and it's going to be sitting on your desk, and it's going to be like that, you're going to have it aimed from a little thing, then at that point, just get something that's like, maybe 1,000, maybe 800. There's probably some forums online. I'm not an expert, to be honest. I don't mathematically do it. I just kind of ballpark it and do the best I can when it comes to light, and, be like, okay, got a couple plants over here, slap 5,000, 2,000 lumen, aiming on them, and do that. The next type of thing you probably want to bring in consideration is price. How much you can pay for the lights. Because if you can pay for LEDs, and you want the plants in your house, then I'd go LEDs if you can afford it, because it's less cost, less power, or they cost more, but they use less power, they're not as breakable and damageable, and they last way longer. But if you're trying to do it more on a budget, I go for fluorescents, because they do just about as good. Now, if you're not going to be around the plants and you're planning on making a grow room and you just want to have all the most beautiful plants ever, and you just want one room designated for all the plants, then I'd say go with LED grow lights for that one. But they're more expensive. Price, fluorescents are on the lower end, LED grow lights are on the high end, and then you have LEDs in the middle. I usually kind of interchange between LEDs and fluorescents, and then a few LED grow lights for areas where I'm just growing plants and I'm doing it to get fruit and vegetables and different things. The next thing would be area. Do you have the area for it? That applies to LED grow lights. If you're wanting to, if you have a giant area and you're not going to go in there, you're just dedicating a room to plants, then I would recommend LED grow lights, and then having a few strategically placed lights that you can flip on, and those will illuminate while you're in there, and then you can shut off the LED grow lights and turn them back on when you leave. But if it isn't a huge area, and you're trying to be conservative, then I would recommend LEDs or fluorescents for that one. Probably fluorescents, because, well, probably not fluorescents, maybe LEDs if you're dealing with heat problems, if you're running less heat, I would recommend that. But then LEDs, I heavily recommend. But if you're trying to save a bit of money, I'd go with fluorescents. You're just going to have to change them more often. Granted, there are two methods, in my opinion, with lighting. You have flood lighting and you have spot lighting. Flood lighting is where you take a room and you just generally just jack the light levels up. You just put lights everywhere and bring the light level all the way up. This is what Ray does in the Voodoo Garden. But then you have spot lighting, where you have a corner of plants, and then you put one really bright light bulb and aim it on them, and only them. And that usually works better for human beings, because we as human beings, you know, we enjoy brightness. Some of us do. Some of us do. Some of those sleepy owls out there don't enjoy it that much, especially in the morning. But some of us don't want it that bright. None of us can, but still there comes a point where the plants are like more, and we're like, it's too bright. Where what you can do is you can have areas where you have the plants and you spotlight them. You aim really bright light just on them and just on that area, which also focuses the plants if you're asking in a decorative way. But focuses the light on them and gives them the nutrients they need, but yet lets you move around and enjoy your house without having to sacrifice it to the plants, but you can still have your plants. But if you have a room that's going to be just dedicated to lights, like an office, I'd bring the light up really, you know, you could floodlight. It just depends. Mostly spot lighting in areas where humans are going to be, and you want to use fluorescents and LEDs, and in areas like it's a room and you're not going to be in there a ton and it's going to be fully dedicated to plants, then I'd do flood lighting and probably LED grow lights or LEDs to get the job done there. But I hope this video helped. Please comment down below and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our future videos. If you have any questions or you're trying to figure out something of your own lighting and trying to be like, oh, well, for this plant or that thing, please let me know and I'll comment down below and try to help you. And who knows, maybe you'll inspire me to make a video on some plant that you guys are asking about. But until next time, keep growing indoors. Bye!